Hello everyone, welcome back to Noteworthy ENT. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the X-rays of nose and paranasal sinuses. Now, before proceeding further, let us discuss a little bit about the sinuses. So, there are mainly four group of sinuses named on the bone they are pneumatizing. So, a couple of maxillary sinuses, a couple of frontal sinuses, one on each side, a couple of sphenoid sinuses, one on each side, and multiple ethmoid sinuses, which are multiple on both the sides. So, coming straight to the X-rays of paranasal sinuses, there are four views which are done. The most common of them being the Waters view or the occipitomental view. Firstly, we'll see how the patient is positioned. So patient is positioned facing the film. So this is the film and the patient is positioned so that the patient faces the film with the chin of the patient touching the film, and this line, that is the line joining the mentum and the external auditory meatus, is known as the mentomeatal line. This mentomeatal line becomes perpendicular to the film. What it does is it brings this line, that is the orbitomeatal line, at an angle of about 37 degrees to the film, and the beams are projected parallel to the horizontal. So patient faces the film with the mentomeatal line being perpendicular to the film. Now, what structures are seen in the Waters view? So it is the best view for looking at the maxillary sinuses. As you can see, this is the right maxillary sinus, left maxillary sinus, the frontal sinuses, and you can also have a glimpse of ethmoids, although they are not well seen on this view. And the other structure are, this being the orbit, this being the infraorbital foramen, and the bony nasal septum. Now, a couple of things you need to see so that you get an idea whether the patient is positioned properly or not. Firstly, this petrous ridge should be below the level of maxillary sinuses. If the patient is not positioned properly, the angulation is not properly done, you may see this petrous ridge coming in the maxillary sinus, and it is difficult to know about the opacification if that is the case. And also, this being the foramen magnum and the odontoid process, these should be below the level of mandible in a properly oriented X-ray. Now, if we open the mouth of the patient, we also can see the sphenoid sinus. So, through the open mouth, we can see the sphenoid sinus, the maxillary sinuses on both the sides, the frontal sinuses, and a little bit of ethmoids also. So on opening the mouth, we can see the sphenoid sinus also. Now coming to the pathologies, in case of acute sinusitis, you can see an air fluid level in the involved sinuses. Although the changes can be very non-specific also, including mucosal thickening and opacification of the sinuses. But if you see an air fluid level, it is diagnostic of acute sinusitis. As you can see in this diagram, in this picture rather, on the right side, you can see an air fluid level in the right maxillary sinus with the convexity downwards. So this is diagnostic of acute sinusitis. Now, how do you diagnose chronic sinusitis? There are a lot of signs which suggest chronic sinusitis, the more important being the mucosal thickening in the involved sinuses. So it can be a diffuse or polypoidal mucosal thickening, partial or complete opacification of the sinuses, or bone remodeling or thickening causing osteitis. Although this change is better seen on a CT scan. Now we'll see a few X-rays. So in this X-ray, you can see there is opacification of the left maxillary sinus, suggesting sinusitis. Similarly, in the next X-ray, you can see there is opacification of the right maxillary sinus. Now, if you are presented with such an X-ray, you may be asked how do you proceed with the management of the patient. So, a couple of things you have to do is firstly being the diagnostic nasal endoscopy of the patient and a non-contrast CT scan of nose and paranasal sinuses. A non-contrast scan is enough if you are suspecting sinusitis. Unless you are suspecting a malignancy, a non-contrast scan is sufficient. Now we'll see this X-ray now. As you can see, there is opacification of the left maxillary sinus. However, you can also see that the lateral wall of the maxilla is eroded. So this opacification is causing erosion, or the disease rather is causing erosion of the bony walls also. And the differential diagnosis can be a malignancy or an invasive fungal sinusitis. So you will need a contrast enhanced scan in this particular scenario along with the biopsy. Now a few more X-rays. As you can see in this X-ray, there is opacification of the left maxillary sinus, and this opacification can also be seen in the nasal cavity. So this is suggestive of an enterocoenal polyp. Opacification in the sinus along with the opacification of the nasal cavity is suggestive of an enterocoenal polyp. Now another X-ray, as you can see, there is a opacification in the right maxillary sinus, and this has a convexity upwards. So this is diagnostic of an antral polyp. So in an antral polyp, you will see the convexity pointing upwards, whereas in case of air fluid level, the convexity is pointing downwards. Now coming to the second view, that is Caldwell's view or the occipitofrontal view. Now, in this case, the patient is positioned facing the film and the orbitomeatal line is brought at an angle of 15 degrees to the horizontal, and the beams are projected parallel to the horizontal. So, patient faces the film with the orbitomeatal line being at an angle of 15 degrees to the horizontal. Now, this view is best for the frontal sinuses, and you can have a good idea about the ethmoid sinuses also. But maxillary sinus is not well seen as it is superimposed by the petrous ridge. As you can see in this picture, this is the right frontal sinus, the left frontal sinus, and the ethmoid sinus is on both the sides, whereas the maxillary sinus is superimposed by the petrous ridge. You, if you see carefully, can also see superior orbital fissure on both the sides. Now coming to the pathologies, in case of sinusitis, you can see opacification of the involved sinus. As you can see in this case, this being the normal right frontal sinus, and on the left side there is complete opacification of the frontal sinus. Another pathology, on the left diagram, you can see there is a radio-opaque lesion in the right frontal sinus. This is highly suspicious of an osteoma. Now let's see this other picture now. As you can see, this is the normal scalloping of the frontal sinus, and this normal scalloping is lost on the left side, and there is a radio opaque lesion, and this is diagnostic of a mucocele. And these lesions, they usually press on the globe and push them inferolaterally. So opacification, diagnostic of frontal sinusitis, a radio-opaque bony lesion suspicious of osteoma, and a opacification along with loss of normal scalloping is diagnostic of mucocele. These are the two more common X-rays which we do. Now the other two, that is the lateral view and the submental-vertical view. So we'll take up the lateral view first. The patient is positioned so that this sagittal plane of the skull is parallel to the film and the beams are projected perpendicular to the film or parallel to the horizontal. So it is good to see the extent of the anterior and posterior extent of the frontal sinus, the anterior and posterior extent of maxillary sinus, anterior and posterior extent of the sphenoid sinuses. And you can also appreciate air fluid levels in the sinuses if it is there. Now coming to the submentovertical or the basal view, the patient is positioned such that the vertex of the patient touches the film and the patient is asked to hyperextend so that the orbitomeatal line it becomes parallel to the film and the beams are projected perpendicular to the film centered on the submental area. Now what structures do we see? We see mainly the sphenoid sinus on this view. So as you can see, this being the right sphenoid sinus and the left sphenoid sinus, we also can see the maxillary sinuses and also a couple of important foramina, that is the foramen ovale and the foramen spinosum. So you should know what structures pass through these foramina. So through foramen ovale, the mnemonic is male. So mandibular nerve, accessory meningeal artery, lesser petrosal nerve and emissary vein. And through foramen spinosum, triple M, that is the mnemonic. So both the middle meningeal vessels, that is middle meningeal artery and middle meningeal vein, along with meningeal branch of mandibular nerve. So these structures pass through these foramina. Now coming to the X-ray for nasal bone. So we do a routine lateral X-ray from both the sides, that is the right and left sides. Now before seeing the X-ray, just a little bit about the anatomy. Now there are a couple of important sutures which we will see on the lateral X-ray. The suture where the nasal bone joins the frontal bone, that is the nasofrontal suture, and also the nasal bone and the maxilla, they are joined at the nasomaxillary suture. And on some X-rays, you may see a faint groove anterior to the nasomaxillary suture, and this is the groove for anterior ethmoidal nerve. Some consider this nerve to be a continuation of the nasociliary nerve also. So as you can see in this X-ray, clearly there is a fracture of the nasal bone. So you don't have to confuse with this nasofrontal suture. The fracture is usually perpendicular or oblique to the nasal bone, and this is in the suture is in a longitudinal plane, usually parallel to the nasal bone. Now you should know a few important points about nasal bone fracture. The most important being that nasal bone fracture is a clinical diagnosis. So a patient will present with a history of either a road traffic accident or some kind of trauma, be it an assault, and you will see there may be swelling over the nasal area along with the tenderness and crepitus of the nasal bone. X-ray just helps to confirm your suspicion. So another point, that if there is isolated nasal bone fracture that you are suspecting, then an X-ray is enough. But if you are suspecting multiple fractures in the facial bones, then ideally you have to get a CT phase done. And another thing, that is the management of nasal bone fracture. So we only intervene if there is significant cosmetic deformity or the patient is having nasal obstruction due to the deformity or patient is having septal hematoma. So the timing of nasal bone fracture reduction, the fracture can be either reduced immediately before the patient presents with presence of edema. So if edema is not there, it can be reduced immediately. If the edema has occurred, the patient is presenting with the edema, then you have to wait for a few days, ideally around 5 to 10 days before doing a reduction. But You cannot wait longer than 2 to 3 weeks. And if that time has passed, then the patient has to undergo a formal rhinoplasty after 6 months of the injury. So timing of nasal bone fracture reduction is important, but one should rule out septal hematoma, as if it is present, it needs to be drained immediately. Kindly leave your feedback or any queries in the comments below. And if you like what I am doing, please support me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Thank you.